Thanks, and great to be here. Good morning to all of you, and welcome to AMD's Computex. We actually, it's my first time to be here at AMD, and it's a great opportunity to give you a little bit of an idea about what we're doing and the product announcements that we have here for AMD and Embedded. But before we kind of get into the product announcements, I wanted you to think back. I wanted you to think back to the trip. Many of you traveled from far away to come to this venue. When you think about the diversity and the number of embedded applications that you touched along the way, it's quite amazing. So you probably, along the way to the airport, you probably saw a vehicle navigation system that was either built into your car or a portable GPS. When you got your boarding pass to board the flight here, you probably leveraged a kiosk. You might have had to change the gate, so you worked with a gate agent that was leveraging thin client. When you put your bags through the security operator had two multiple high-definition displays that were kind of operating your X-ray. You might have checked the status of your flight on a digital signage display. When you boarded the plane, you probably looked in the cockpit and saw 9 different displays that the pilots were actually looking to make sure that the plane was ready to take off. You might have even watched a movie on a rear seat entertainment solution on your way to the event. This represents kind of the embedded opportunity that we see for AMD. The rich visualization that's going on in the embedded marketplace absolutely to our strengths. But herein lies the challenge, right? The embedded market is highly fragmented and diverse. I actually use the joke that embedded is an 8-letter word that stands for 800,000 different things. Therein lies the opportunity and challenge. So how do we at AMD go about addressing this tremendous opportunity? Well, what we're doing is we're choosing to focus. We're focusing on markets where we think that our rich visualization history, our strong compute performance, and technology will allow our customers to innovate and provide system-level value in their end applications. So we've chosen 6 vertical markets to focus on at this point. So really kind of building on what Kevin and Lisa talked about is we've been at the forefront of innovating around computing for a long time. And a lot of that translates very well in the embedded market. And much like you saw Kevin talk about the advent of HSA into the desktop and mobile spaces, we also see that that's very relevant in the embedded space. Our product roadmap that we launched in September of last year really is a testament to our commitment to the embedded space. We launched this product roadmap in September of last year, and we've been on a very strong cadence of execution, delivering to our commitments of when we said we bring devices to the market, we do. So we first launched Adelar, our embedded discrete GPU in embedded world in February of this year, to critical acclaim. And actually just 2 weeks ago at G2E in Macau, the world's largest casino gaming trade show, we launched the Bald Eagle, which is at the very top of our stack. So the Bald Eagle device, which is our 2nd generation R series, actually builds on this HSA capability that Kevin and Lisa talked about. It's really now putting the GPU and CPU on a level playing field, enabling people to develop software both visually and graphics applications as well as compute applications with much greater ease. We also see that in the embedded space, it's not just about a lot of the compute experiences. We see that embedded is on the cusp of a transformation as it relates to ultra-high definition. Ultra-high definition 4K displays are moving from kind of a niche technology, they're on the cusp of becoming mainstream. And it's devices like the Bald Eagle that are enabling that, with our capability to render and display multiple 4K instantiations. A particular example of that is, in combination with our Bald Eagle device and our 80 and 60 GPUs, we can support up to 9 displays, right, for many different applications, and I'll talk about the markets where that's relevant. And to the point that kind of Kevin highlighted earlier is very substantial uplift in relation to performance over the prior generation. So let's talk a little about the market context associated with Bald Eagle and the R series. In the different markets that we play in, this part is really quite revolutionary. When you think about what it can do in the factory, if you think about the factory of yesteryear, it was all about buttons, lights, switches, dials, and knobs. Today, it's about rich interactive displays, touch, compute, where factories now are becoming autonomous. They have the ability to run themselves. When we think about some of the other segments, like casino gaming, we actually chose to launch this device at G2E in Macau because of the transformation that's going on in casino gaming. It's around the rich interactive displays that you have, as well as kind of a very engaging visual experience. Talking about digital signage, which actually are some of the demos that we have for today, digital signage is undergoing a very significant transformation. In addition to kind of the ultra high definition movement, it's not just about the number of displays you provide, it's also about interactive signage. Signage that you can walk up to and it recognizes, are you a man or a woman? Are you big or little? What are your buying preferences? Where should you be directed in the store? This is the type of technology leveraging HSA for compute that will enable that next generation of digital signage experience. We then talk about what we're announcing here today. We're talking about the next evolution of our G-Series SoC and CPU devices, the step-eagle and crown-eagle devices. So a little bit about those. So first, let's take a step back to last year. We launched the industry's first quad-core x86 SoC into the market last year. Very successful device called eCabini, launched into the embedded space. Built on our 28nm technology, built on our great foundations of core leadership and graphics leadership, and really the first of a kind as it relates to a single chip SoC. We then, given the very strong market demand that we saw from eCabini, now evolved that into two unique products. And what we're presenting to you today here for the very first time at Computex is our new G-Series SoC and CPU that generate over 50% more performance than the prior generation. It's also worth noting that they're pin compatible. And the reason why this is really relevant and important in the embedded space is people designed for longevity in embedded. All the devices that we're sharing with you here from a CPU and SoC perspective have a 10-year longevity. That means that when a customer chooses AMD to go into their embedded application, they can know that we're going to be their partner 10 years from now when they need longevity and supply performance. That pin compatibility means that the systems that they built can continue their life longer, with more performance and at lower power. A couple of other kind of technology innovations that we're working on is security in embedded applications is extremely important. These devices make themselves into all sorts of different systems. You'll see some demos of that here today. But these devices go into many different environments where there's not exactly the kind of control. So security is very important. So actually what we're bringing out with the step-eagle and crown-eagle is we're bringing out our first device with our platform security co-processor built on trusted architecture. This means that our customers can innovate and ensure that their applications are in a secure and trusted environment. The last point that's very important in the embedded space is what we call configurable TDP. So many different embedded applications are actually very harsh, ruggedized environments where you can't have fans, you can't have advanced cooling scenarios. So configurable TDP is essentially the ability that a customer or an application developer of ours can go program the device to operate at a given power level. The device then self-optimizes and runs at maximum performance that doesn't exceed that power level. It makes thermal devices and thermal design much simpler to implement and very robust. Think of this as your fire and forget solution. You set the threshold that you want to operate, the device manages itself. Where do we see the G-Series SoC playing and CPU playing quite strongly? So I talked about in my opening a little bit around kind of the point of sale, where we see that kind of kiosks are kind of becoming prolific, where we see that it's not just also kind of about a very simple experience, it's about a rich interactive experience. Thin client. Thin client is an exploding market for us in terms of our growth in thin client. The reason why is people want a very rich, visual, powerful experience in thin client, but they want the total cost of ownership benefit associated with thin client. They want the security. They want the stability of the software images. So the G-Series SoC, the step-eagle is a great fit for that. We also, after we launched eCabini last year, saw a tremendous uptake as it relates to the communications and infrastructure segment. We saw that more people were adopting eCabini with 12-lane applications than any other AMD processor ever before. And so that's a big part of what was the impetus around our crown-eagle device. So, statistics, back to the points that kind of Kevin was highlighting. It's all about the data and proof. So when you look at kind of from a relative performance per dollar perspective compared to the competition, we actually got a very substantial uplift over and above the nearest competitor. The other thing is this power efficiency that I talked about. Power and form factor is incredibly important in embedded. And this device, the step-eagle and crown-eagle, give us the capability to go into all sorts of different fanless designs that are very important in the embedded space. So I talked a little bit about kind of the applications. One of the other interesting things is there's actually many different embedded applications that have no visualization. A great example of that is in communications and networking. There's no screen. There's nothing to see. And this is actually where we see a lot of the initial e-computing deployments that we were so excited about warranted that we needed to bring a CPU-only device to be able to serve those applications. This is actually an application that you see quite often, given the fact that we have such a strong presence and our focus in the microserver market and data center. We actually see that we have a very strong play as it relates to control plane into things like a top-rack data center switch. So it's really that market demand that we saw starting last year that caused us to really consider bringing out a CPU-only device for things like networking and communications. So it's really a great time to be here at Embedded. Embedded is about long relationships. Embedded is about deep partnerships. And we're really excited about the technology that we can bring forward that enables us to transform our next generation customers' embedded experiences. So with that, I'm really excited to bring my colleague up here. I'd like to invite David Cummings, who's our General Manager of our Professional Graphics business. David?